Welcome to Miami Global Net Podcast, where we explore Miami's international community. Today's topics are cybersecurity breaches, and its transatlantic impact. Our friends at the EACC Florida bring us a special guest. I give it over to Krystyna Eslesinska, the Executive Director of the EACC Florida, for the intros.
Really good to be back. My name is Krystyna Eslesinska. I'm the Executive Director of the EACC Florida, and we're the Florida chapter of the European American Chamber of Commerce, a platform where Americans and Europeans connect to do business. EACC provides resources, education, and updates on regulatory and legal developments of relevance to the transatlantic business community. We organize events on issues of interest to our constituency and offer unique connections and networking opportunities. We're very happy to partner with Miami Global Net on this podcast series of deep dives, focusing on big picture issues and how they affect transatlantic business activities. On this deep dive, we will be discussing a burning topic, as Alejandro mentioned, cybersecurity. What is it? How do cybersecurity breaches occur? How can they be prevented? We will be looking at some of the regulatory differences between the US and the EU in the area of cybersecurity. And since our guest is from Poland, we will also talk about how the Russian war against Ukraine has amplified the cyber risks in Europe and here in the United States. Our invited guest, Michał Suchoki, is Product and Technical Sales Director at CyCommSec and self-describes as a cybersecurity and tech evangelist. CyCommSec is a cybersecurity company based in Warsaw, Poland, which is now looking to expand here to the United States and will establish its US headquarters here in South Florida. CyCommSec is an EACC Florida member company, and with the Russia-Ukraine war still raging and cyber risks being an important aspect of this war, we're absolutely delighted to have an expert from Poland speaking with us today. So now, without further ado, Alejandro, I'll pass the floor back over to you.
Thank you, Krystyna. It's always great to have the EACC Florida partnering with us and doing these deep dives. And Michał, how are you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much. And I'm very happy that I'm here today with you recording this podcast. So it's a pleasure.
Good choice joining the ACC Florida. They're good people over there. Not because they're here. But all right then. So cybersecurity. I mean, it's a big topic. It's growing fast. So let's dive right in. So can you define cybersecurity for us and cybersecurity breaches?
Yeah, I think that the easiest approach to define that is to explain somehow the CIA triage and CIA triage defining how we actually preventing or securing our data. So looking from the CIA means confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Taking the first word from this acronym, I would like to do everything to keep my data confidential. I would like to do everything to get it actually to not allow or to keep my data integrated, so no one will change anything in the data. So this is from the integrity perspective. And of course, from availability perspective, if I'm using the data and this data, for example, helping me with the daily business, I would like to have this data available for me. So in this easy explanation, we can say that we're doing everything in cybersecurity to prevent the data, to avoid any manipulation in the data, and of course, to secure this data from different type of situations. Cybersecurity, or let's say looking from the cybersecurity world perspective, data is right now kind of gold comparing to the previous ages. Right now, we actually cannot perform the business. We cannot exist actually without the data. So anything related to data manipulation, data stealing is kind of breach. Actually, by breach, we saying that someone possessed the data or changed something in the data.
So breach is that someone has the data or somebody has changed the data.
Yes, exactly. Or doing something that this data is not available for us.
Okay. Can you give us some examples here in the US and in Europe?
Of course, yes. Looking from this triage, CIA triage, very good example is Colonial Pipeline, which actually this breach happened last year. So I think you heard about that in the news. There was a huge attack, ransomware attack, when the data was encrypted. So actually data was not available for Colonial Pipeline, which means that the systems, IT systems, and of course OT systems went offline. And actually this caused a lot of problems. And it's not only the problem for Colonial Pipeline that they were not able to transfer the oil from one point to another. I mean, for example, from Texas to New York. But also it was the problem strictly related to end customers. Next day after the breach, price of the single gallon rise dramatically. So there is a huge impact not only for the organization which is breached, which is attacked, but also for the end customers. Another very, I would say, interesting case from, of course, hacking and from the data perspective is case with Marriott. Marriott lost more than 500 million records about users, about guests. This cost a tremendous amount of money to actually, say, mitigate the repercussions of this attack. Data which was stolen includes information about emails, about passwords. So such kind of data, for example, can be used by hackers. For example, log into another services. So if I'm using my email to log into Marriott service, probably I'm using the same email with a similar password to log into another service. What is interesting, Marriott, looking from the regulation perspective, had to send a post notification to each of the single user which data was breached. Means if you take, for example, I don't know, $1 for a post stamp, imagine how much money they had to pay for just for notification. Another case as well related to ransomware, because right now one of the biggest threat is actually ransomware. So someone is stealing our data, manipulating with the data, not allowing us to use this data, and of course ask for ransom. So another case with the ransom, for example, in Europe was the National Health Service in Britain. More than 80 hospitals was actually blocked, of course, because of the ransomware. So there are many similar cases, but as I'm explaining, as you can hear, it's all about data. So if someone will manipulate the data and I cannot access this data, my business can collapse or can go offline for a few hours, and those few hours can cost me as a business owner a lot. But of course, if someone possesses the data, this data can be used to another attack. So those are a few examples.
So CyCommSec is based in Poland, and I understand that you're planning to establish operations here in the U.S., right here in South Florida. The U.S. is a very competitive market. Can you share with us a few words about your plans of and your expectations here in Florida?
Expectations, I will say, maybe if we approach this question a bit different way, actually, why we select Florida.
Yeah.
So looking from that perspective, of course, we did some research. We get also proper meetings, for example, with Christina. And from our perspective, what we can see is that the state is kind of technology oriented. This is one thing. Another thing is pure business, let's say feature functionality, however we'll call it, is of course low tax structure and I would say kind of business climate. Workforce and talent attraction. Also, if you look from the university perspective, there are a lot of universities available, and also we even had a chance to meet with few universities representatives to figure out how many, let's say, courses or they have when it comes to cybersecurity, and of course. From the long time perspective, access to other countries, other neighbors. So this is, let's say, the benefits which we can see from the place perspective. From other expectation, I think that a lot of companies also thinking to move to Florida. A lot of business actually happening right now in Florida. From our perspective, it's also good a gateway, looking also from the Poland connection to Miami. There is a direct flight, which is very good from the owner's perspective to easily reach the Miami. So yeah, I mean, those are more, let's say, I will call it KPIs, why we select Florida.
So a lot of people choose Miami also because of its connection to Latin America. I mean, for a long time, before we started calling it Miami, the global city, we were the gateway to Latin America, right? What about Latin America?
Yeah, exactly. This is also, I mean, I would say, this is one of the reason. I mean, this is the gateway to Cuba. This is the gateway to Mexico and to other countries. So, for example, Colombia, Venezuela. So, yeah, that's why. That is why. So we believe that it will be easier to of course, I would say, pitch our services as well for those countries in the looking from the long-term perspective.
Awesome. I mean, you got Brazil, you got Argentina as well, Mexico,
Exactly.
a lot of good potentials. So going back to Poland. So I know that Poland has been increasingly visible now in the news, in the past couple of months, handling the consequences around the war in Ukraine, which is one of your neighbors, right? There's a lot of history there, a lot of close ties. Can you share a few words about the war and how that's affecting you personally?
Of course, yes. I mean, from the I would say affecting personally, I would say right now it's quite I would say calm. But if we look back in February or on March or in March, we had I would say a lot of disinformation, of course, generated by the hackers. I would say even the Russian hackers. To give you some examples, there was a lot of fake news on different social media saying that our critical infrastructure, like banking, are under huge attacks and having the problem actually to persist, to be properly secured. This information create kind of panic. People start withdrawing money, and this is actually a real personal, let's say, impact. I had to pay for service in my house. I ordered one of the service to my house, and actually I was not able to pay in cash for this company because I was not able to withdraw the money from the ATM. So I was spinning around to find the ATM to actually withdraw the money. Same thing was with gas. It was not possible, or actually there was a huge queues on the gas stations to pump the car, because there was huge disinformation about the attacks on the critical infrastructure. But like I said, right now, I would say there is no personal impact. Time to time, we can say we are receiving fake emails to donate on the fake account, or actually those emails are with the phishing links. So you need to be actually somehow worried, or you need to be aware where exactly you are clicking or what exactly you are opening. So from this perspective, I think there was enough information in the news, so people are much more aware right now. But I will say the first 2-3 months, they really affect, let's say, regular life due to such kind of disinformation. From professional perspective, I will say it raises awareness for different businesses, means that from cybersecurity perspective, we have much more work because actually you can be hit by so-called ricochet if you are connected, for example, on the edge somehow to the network or to the organizations which are in Ukraine. From another perspective, also from professional perspective, what we can see is that a lot of organizations, a lot of companies, as well in IT sector, move from Ukraine to actually sustain, to keep their business, but also a lot of services which was offshore to Ukraine or to Belarus, those companies decide actually to offshore those business in Poland, means that we have a huge demand for IT or even a cybersecurity specialist. I would say there is an impact, but I think since last few months we already somehow made the lesson learned, and we're trying to sustain with the current situation. But on the very beginning, it was there was many, I would say, issues.
So I know you kind of dabbled on this when you mentioned your personal and professional life, but I want to ask you more specifically, what kind of cyber attacks are we seeing or is Europe experiencing now?
So I think on the very beginning, we had a lot of so-called DDoS attack, denial of service attacks on especially on the critical and important infrastructure. DDoS, you can imagine DDoS somehow when you have the new sales of iPhone or Apple Watch, and you have just one small doors, but 1,000 people trying to go through those doors. So this is exactly about the DDoS. So in 1 second, in 1 milliseconds, we have thousands of connection to specific server or to specific website. DDoS attack, I would say, will not make a company suffer. I would say the impact is not big because it's not easy to go inside, or I would say to steal any data. But DDoS attack is done in purpose to make the disinformation. And why is important? Because imagine the situation that there is an attack on the bank, and for a few seconds or 1 minute, bank website will collapse. Those people will make the print screen and they will make the proper noise, cyber noise or fake noise in the internet, saying that one of the most important bank, for example, in Poland, is not working. So this disinformation will actually create the panic and chaos.
Regarding denial of service, so a denial of service means that, like you said, to see if I understand, is that there's just few doors and everybody's trying to go through that door. So what happened to the other doors? Are they blocked or are they?
Yeah, but usually this DDoS is done in a way. Of course, you're totally right. We can try to reach other doors, but the DDoS attack is done in a way that most common door which are used means that, for example, website where I'm trying to reach my service is down. So they actually attacking those one more time, doors which are used most common.
Got it. Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Another type of attack is deface. So in general, hackers changing the content on specific websites. I would say if we look from the war perspective, there was a lot of deface attacks on Ukrainian government websites, where from the content, if you follow the content, you will see a kind of disinformation that this website or the service were actually hacked, not by, of course, Russian Federation, but for example, by Polish hackers. Also, on the very beginning of the conflict in Poland, we have such kind of attacks. Let's say they select the website which are like a news or common website where people getting the daily informations. Another very, I would say, impacting businesses, not only businesses, also government institution attack is actually ransomware. So any type of manipulation, actually, any type of attack which allows to encrypt the data, and this data actually on the specific time is not available either for the users or, of course, for the owner. So those types of attacks was actually even right now are appearing. Looking from let's say traffic perspective, monitoring perspective, all of the NATO countries right now observing like almost 200% more attacks than before the war. And what is very interesting, looking from the geographical perspective, those attacks are actually coming not only from Russia, but as well from China, or of course from Belarus. It's not only one point of attack. I mean, those hackers are let's say spreaded. I think it's worth also to mention that a lot of hackers groups right now using the conflict actually to hit a potential target. So what I'm trying to say is that not all of the attacks, not all of the breaches are strictly related to the war.
Just to go a little deeper on breaches, how do they happen exactly? Like, is there, because one of the things that I understand is that there's misconceptions that people think that all attacks come from the outside, but studying and preparing for this, thanks to the EACC Florida, I understand that that's a misconception. A lot of people work from insiders, right?
Yeah, so actually there is like plenty of let's say possibilities or approaches, but I will try to explain it as easy as possible. In general, the hackers trying to learn about the organizations, about the infrastructure of those organizations or specific organization. They will try to learn what type of assets they are using. There are different techniques to do that. By looking for such kind of information, they may figure out, they can actually even check that because there is a specific database of so-called vulnerabilities, kind of gaps in specific systems, in specific, I don't know, applications, or let's call it servers. So if they will make, let's call it kind of scanning, they will figure out, okay, this organization have this specific server, this server has specific vulnerability, this vulnerability was not fixed, so I will try to exploit that. So I will try to use this vulnerability. So this is, let's say, one of the option to go to such kind of organization from the outside. But a lot of things, actually, a lot of breaching, and also not only linked to the war which we are discussing right now, but actually linked to the daily businesses, daily organizations, operations, are actually happening from the inside. This is happening. This happening thanks to so-called social engineering or social technique. Hackers, they observing the organization, they try and figure out who's actually working in this specific organization, and they will take this, let's call it victim, and they will try, for example, send phishing links. They will try to, for example, guess the password. If they will know that this victim is using specific email to log in, they can make, for example, so-called brute force. So they can try to, of course, using computers to guess the password. Another, maybe it will sound really funny, but another very simple approach was doing for many years in the past. They was putting, for example, the envelope or a USB sticker with kind of a note or information, confidential data, payroll, salaries. By curiosity, people will take this pen drive or CD-ROM, which they left on the reception, and of course, put it to the computer. And from this moment, the malicious software will start doing the work. Incredible. So there is really plenty of things. But yeah, what is maybe important is that a lot of such kind of social techniques are happening mainly on the top level management, because those people are extremely busy. So it's easy for them to click on something because they are busy. So a lot of techniques actually, I would say, by the book of hacking, a lot of techniques saying, okay, try to find someone who's managing this organization or who's extremely busy, and try to of course send him phishing emails or any information which allows you to let's say inject the malware software to his organization, means infrastructure. So yeah, like I said, there is really plenty of different things.
So now authentication makes sense. When you mentioned brute force, that somebody can grab my email and maybe run a software and go through variations or whatever, or try to get my password. If I have authentication on, then people have to also get that code. If they were to get my password, they have to get the code.
Exactly.
Now it makes, I mean, I have it on some of my stuff, but now it makes a lot more sense why one should. And I never really thought about having employees themselves being attacked first and then being used to access companies. Wow, that's a little scary.
Yeah, it's very scary. Actually, this is also one of our service. We providing so-called social engineering campaigns. We are testing actually human. So how human are perceived, how they are aware that someone is sending the email with kind of fake URL, fake domain, or someone is trying to call them, asking for some, asking tricky questions about some information. So this is also very important. Actually, we saying that awareness of the employees is one of the pillar of cybersecurity in organization.
Very interesting. All this is very interesting. How can another question that came up is like how can hackers make it seem like they're attacking from another place instead of where they're originally located?
Yeah, so there are also plenty of techniques, for example, proxy or VPNs. In easier way, saying that to explain that I can use this technology to fake my localization, especially fake my IP, because IP is assigned per the geolocalization. And whenever there are some systems which are monitoring the infrastructure, they will see this, that I'm reaching from another place. Of course, looking from other side, there are some techniques to as well follow this digital footprint, let's say like that. So yeah, there are plenty techniques allowing to be, let's say, anonymous in the network.
Got it. So from a transatlantic perspective, as the sector continues to grow and more people become more dependent on it, and the data flow, security threats are becoming very, they're growing. They're bigger every year in the United States and in Europe. From where are most of cyber attacks coming from?
I think somehow I touched geolocation.
Yes.
A lot of attacks indeed are from right now are from Russia. If we look from the European perspective, but I will say from the statistics perspective, we can see that a lot of attacks are actually from, or most of the attacks are from China. If we start comparing those attacks, it really depends, because like I mentioned, you have some technologies, you may use some techniques, tricks that this attack will be visible, let's say, from US. So in many cases, when we are helping our customers to figure out, looking on the logs from for example from the server, from actually where the hits came from, we can see that hackers are pointing Korea, hackers are pointing US, hackers are also pointing the Germany. So there is much more analysis needed to really figure out from where these attacks are. But also in many cases, it's not possible as well, or it will take really long time to figure out and actually use this digital footprint to figure out from where actually we were, or someone was trying to hit us.
So attacking someone has to be, it's a more serious thing. It's not like in the movies where you see a bunch of kids in the basement and then the movie's over in 20 minutes, right? This is, you mentioned people study the companies, they study the vulnerabilities, they study the employees. This is a long game. This is not, let's do this over the weekend.
Yeah. You really touch the point. Actually, we're trying to explain for many of our organizations, and Christina mentioned about this evangelist approach, that when it comes to cybersecurity, and actually this is the same thing which we have in real world. When it comes to the attacking or cyber attack, it's not the matter if I will be attacked, or it's matter when I will be affected, when someone will breach my organization. So if I'm prepared, if I have processes, proper employee staff, if I have tools, I'm ready for the attack, I'm ready for the incident. This is, I would say, all about cybersecurity, or let's say preventing or being ready for cybersecurity. It's not about when, but it's not about if my organization will be attacked, but actually when my organization will be attacked. So that's why cybersecurity is extremely important. And if we compare this to the real world, look on the lock in your door. Actually, each of lock in your door can be hacked, can be open. It's just a matter of time. In cybersecurity world is even easier because there are no how to say this time. I would say, I know it's against physics, but this time is longer. No one is monitoring or observing how much time you spend to open this lock. I would say it's easier from this perspective, but none of or entity or any business, none of that of such kind of entity is 100% secure. There is such kind of things does not exist. So if someone is saying that I'm 100% secure, it's not true.
So a few months ago, we held a podcast, again, thanks to the EACC, regarding data protection, and the differences between that exist between the EU and the United States. We have very different regulatory layers, right? Are you ready to deal with those, or do you see any challenges?
We are totally ready. Let's say like that. I mean, from challenges perspective, I will turn around this, saying that from the European data protection perspective, we are really focused on, or actually, this data protection is user centric. So we really care about the user data, user information, confidentiality of user information. Either this will be information from the bank or from about the health. This is strictly defined, and actually based on such kind of experience, I will say this can be only benefit for us as well to share some experience from Europe. So from regulation perspective, I will say that there is no challenges. We believe that it should go somehow smoothly. So it can be, I mean, based from our experience, it can be only better, can be only beneficial.
So this has been a fantastic conversation, and I have just one more question for you. What would be your elevator pitch when talking to potential clients here in the US?
Actually, we already start pitching, so we have the real feedback in common way or in general. Our company built a kind of orchestrator for so-called offensive security. Means that we are doing one step ahead approach. We're saying one step before hackers. So we penetrating, we auditing, we assessing the organizations, not one times per per year or per quarter, but actually this approach is consistent, is regular. So our product, our orchestrator, as I mentioned, Be Secure, allowing actually customers to manage the vulnerabilities, manage the cybersecurity risk based on those regular assessment. So this is the first point. Second point, when we look from the experience perspective and skills perspective, Poland is, I would say, one of the top when it comes to cybersecurity. So we also bring those skills to the table to our customers. Another angle is also compliance. Be Secure, or I would say our offer in our orchestrator also include the compliance. There is a kind of let's say certification or approach called cybersecurity maturity model, which, for example, each of the single entity need to have when this entity would like to work with the US government. So we are already preparing our approach for such kind of certificate to help organization to be certified, actually based on so-called NIST cybersecurity framework, which actually we already performing or we are already adapted here in Europe. So yeah, in general, what I can say that we are providing the consistent cybersecurity assurance thanks to our Be Secure platform.
Got it. All right. It has been great talking about cybersecurity. Is very interesting to me. Pass it over to the EACC Florida for some final words. But on my end, this has been amazing. It's always good to know about what's going on in this front line. It's always expanding. So
Yeah, I totally agree. Thank you so much, Alejandro, for inviting EACC Florida again to partner with Miami Global Net on this deep dive on cybersecurity. And many thanks to our guest, Michał Suchoki from CyCommSec, for sharing your expertise, your US plans with us. And frankly, we really wish you all the best. So you can find further details about our guest, Miami Global Net and EACC Florida in the podcast notes. Make sure you check our website for upcoming programs and information on how to join if you're not a member yet, and subscribe to Miami Global Net to find out more about Miami's international community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.